Let's see where all this has started. It all started in the 1960s. The ICO was founded under the auspices of the United Nations. It's not a United Nations agency, but we work very closely with the UN and all its associated agencies. The initial objective was to achieve a reasonable balance between supply and demand in the coffee market, and through market regulation, market intervention. And I think if we, looking back from today, this seems a bit strange, probably to most of you, that governments would agree to intervene in the market collectively to prop up prices mainly, but I think you have to realize that it was a very different intellectual and geopolitical atmosphere at the time. You had the Cold War, where the Third World, which includes basically all the coffee producing countries, were a battleground between the Soviet Union and the West. So there was an incentive for coffee consumers, importers, to try and help the poor coffee growers. And this was done by a system of export quotas, which helped prop up prices and constituted a kind of a hidden tax on consumers to support the economic and social development of the coffee producing countries. We can say it was reasonably effective in increasing the export earnings of the producing countries, but I have a lot of, having lived through part of this period, I have a lot of reservations about what went on. The benefits did not really trickle down to the farmers, but stayed at the government level, and there was a lot of corruption involved also. Anyway, all of this with the changing political climate, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the triumph of the neoliberal consensus, everything like that, the whole infrastructure behind the quota system fell apart. And on the 4th of July, 1989, the quota system was formally ended. Next slide, please. And since then, the ICO has changed its functions. It's now a knowledge-based organization to try and support the coffee sector as a whole and achieve sustainable development in a market-based environment through international cooperation. And our guiding framework was first the Millennium Development Goals, and are now the Sustainable Development Goals. In the next slide, we can see, yes, how many of the 17 goals are impacted by the work of the ICO and by the coffee sector. So that's 12 of the 17. And of course, with a special focus, a highlight on those first two, the no poverty and zero hunger. So what we do is very intimately related to all of this, to the Sustainable Development Agenda. And how do we do it? We are a very small organization. We are currently only 9 staff. So what we have to do is to serve as a catalyst to try and bring people together and to work with us. And here, this slide presents some of our partners. Some you will identify from your experience are located within the coffee sector. Some of these multi-stakeholder initiatives, such as the Global Coffee Platform, the Sustainable Coffee Challenge, and the International Women's Coffee Alliance. But also we have extensive contacts with the bilateral development agencies of developed countries. There you see Germany, Switzerland, the European Commission, Italy, and so forth. And also we have extensive contacts with UN agencies of various kinds. And at the bottom, some of our more academic contacts also. We work closely with academia, so the London School of Economics, the International Food Policy Research Institute, and the Kiel Institute on the World Economy. Next slide, please, Gerardo. And this is just a glimpse of the challenges we face. COVID is a passing phase, but it is, has a very serious impact. It is causing a global recession. And what are the questions we ask ourselves? How much coffee will be consumed in 30 years' time? How can we provide a decent living for coffee growers in a time of rising production costs? How can we bring the benefits of the world coffee market, the development of this market, to more than 12.5 million farms and more than 20 million households? At the national level, coffee is still an important export commodity for many countries. And last but not least, on this slide, the question of climate change, which we feel very slowly, but it is becoming more and more of a reality as we go along. So how does the ICO address these issues? And as I said before, we follow a 5-year action plan, and this action plan contains 3 basic strategic goals. The first is to serve as a forum for discussion of policies, both within our membership. Our membership is on a state level, country level. Here we're discussing both among the exporting members and also between exporting and importing members. And more and more, and this is a challenge that we are still in the process of addressing, we are trying to involve the private sector also in our work. The second strategic goal is the question of data and analytics. We have the function of supplying reliable information for decision makers of all kinds, but especially in the public sector, to make the well-informed decisions and seek the right policies. And third, we have also a commitment to try and develop the coffee sector and promote the consumption of coffee. We are not a development agency like the World Bank, so we do not have development funds of our own, but we serve as this catalyst function to try and bring more and more partners to work with us. And now let's go straight into the first goal, which is the policy forum. Basically, we we have what's called the International Coffee Council, which is the supreme body of the organization and meets twice a year. So that is a regular instance of when all our members come together. At that time, we hold meetings of various committees, advisory bodies, and also hold seminars on relevant topics. But now, since 2 years ago, we are moving in a new direction, and that is what we call this sector-wide dialogue that arose in response to the coffee price crisis. In September of 2018, our members approved a resolution for the ICO to reach out to the private sector to try and establish this dialogue and see what common ground we can find to help the coffee sector overcome its challenges. And I'm glad to say the private sector has responded in a great fashion. 1 year later, in September of 2019, the private sector signed the London Declaration, which had 4 main themes. The first is to promote competitive and sustainable production. The second is to foster responsible and equitable growth. Third is to promote responsible consumption. And the fourth is to promote public-private dialogue regarding policy development. And out of this, the International Coffee Council welcomed the London Declaration and proposed the creation of a public-private task force of both the private sector and the public sector to tackle these issues. Next slide, please, Gerardo. And here is the composition of this task force. On the left, you have the signatories of the London Declaration. You can see some of the leading roasters and the traders of the world. Also the multi-stakeholder initiatives, the GCP and the SCC. We have, as representing our private sector consultative board, the India Coffee Trust and the National Coffee Association of the USA. We have 15 of our members also represented to put forward the views of the coffee of the public sector. And we have a variety of observers, and the ICO Secretariat supports this work. And we are very thankful for the support of the GIZ of Germany and SECO of Switzerland. If any of you are interested in becoming signatories of the London Declaration, please contact us and we can give you more information. And next slide, please, Gerardo. And the public-private task force divides its work into 6 technical work streams: market transparency, policies and institutions, global funding mechanisms, responsible consumption, sustainable production and sourcing, and the last is is a kind of a catch-all, the sector coordination. That is that work stream operates at the top level and sees what are the objectives of the task force and how to put them into operation. And so the task force was created just over a year ago. COVID has really hampered our work. We have not had as fast a start as we would like, but we are making progress. Very recently, we approved a communique which sets out a roadmap for our future work. This is at the sector coordination level. And now we are ready to look at some of the issues in a more concrete fashion. Specifically, we will institute pilot projects on the question of living income, which is an important aspect of this work. And we will also be looking at the question of the futures markets and how should they be changed, what can be changed, and to make them even more of service to the world coffee sector. With that, I would close my participation in this presentation. Gerardo will go with you through the next two strategic goals, and then I will, of course, be available at the end for the question and answer session. Gerardo, over to you.
Okay, thank you. I've just been unmuted, and buongiorno, guten morgen, bon dia. To everybody, I'm very happy, pleased to be here with you. And then let's try to go quickly to the strategic goal 2 and 3, and the one that we think could be of interest to you for stimulating a discussion. The first things, of course, that ICO is also being established is to be an independent and high quality provider of data. Part of the agreement that regulates the existence of the ICO establishes the rules and the way statistics data provided by our members and how this data is processed and made available. We have a regular set of publications. They are available to members and to external users as subscribers. These are the ICO indicator price, which we are also discussing with your organization. This is a daily information that we provide that, of course, is combined with the futures market data. This is spot prices. Then we publish, I think most of you probably know, the coffee market report on a monthly basis. This is, again, is available also online, and this gives an idea based on the data we collect and process, what are the trends on a monthly basis in terms of production and export and consumption of coffee. We, of course, also additional reports, and this is about monthly trade statistics, green and processed coffee trade statistic quarterly. This is by subscription, annual trade statistic, and Arabica and Robusta details. What is important now that we are jumping finally to a different level, because normally data was within the ICO corporate database, but now we are just finalizing an online platform where all the stakeholders could actually access the data and produce their own reports. We are often requested also by academia and by research group to provide the data, who is, of course, a very long time series, very rich of information. Now, in addition to that function, we've been, especially as the executive just mentioned, in cooperation with a number of key research and academia, to publish the flagship report, what is called Coffee Development Report. Then again, it's a recent initiative. We were producing a number of studies and research on coffee and coffee matters. But since last year, we have condensed all this in a coffee development report inspired by the development report of the World Bank, under which we cooperate on a continuous basis. Then, of course, the regular ones are about obstacle to consumption, so barriers to trade. And then we have reports on mixture and substitute and status of coffee development project. But of course, like in the case of COVID, since I think already March, we were already consulting all our networks and try to understand what were the expectations of this incoming pandemic. And we published 3 ad hoc studies on impacts of COVID, including an interview with Mr. Tamari as part of this process. Now, what in more in detail, we've been looking, as I say, at the COVID-1, and this is something we wanted to share with you. The 3 brief, coffee brief, publicly available as a public good, and have been stimulating a lot of discussion also within your associations and to other fora and quarters. Well, of course, we've been realizing that from, I say, we started very early to look into that matter. That, of course, we know there's a global health and economic crisis, but with regard to coffee, it is very unusual that this initial shock, at least, has been both on looking at the demand side and the supply side. And that is historically a novelty, unfortunately, because normally problems come from supply or from demand. Then, of course, we've been looking at all the elements related to the volatility and uncertainty that goes in the supply chain, both from all the operators, from the farmers to the consumers at the end of the day. And then we've been looking at the prospect of a global recession would impact the coffee sector. The other point, of course, we study more carefully and, as I say, networking with other key institutions is the different role the government and central banks can take to respond to the crisis, comparing with different financial crises, mainly that were established before. And one point also here that the task force, public-private task force, has been shaped also like the G7, G20 mechanism that were established because of the financial crisis. So they were responding to a crisis. Same is the task force. Price crisis for coffee, green coffee, but also the pandemic. And of course, now we are facing the so-called second wave, and we hope that this would be over soon. Now, in terms of just highlights, I say the publications are available to all the users. But the challenge for the coffee sector, we wanted to look into that, and that is also reflected on the monthly coffee market report. But of course, we've been looking into this volatility, how the composite indicator of daily prices changes, and we partnered here with the IFPRI, who is already carrying out the function of assessing volatility with food crops according to the G20, and now we have included coffee. And then you see there is a standard methodology to alert when the volatility increases, so then the action can be taken. The three reports that are on the impact of COVID looked into the impact on the supply side, so disruption, as you know, of supply chain and international trade. Labor supply affecting harvest and supply chain processes, and then the lack of liquidity, the ample investment along the value chain. So these are the elements that the study will look into. With regard to demand, of course, we first assessment was based on similar or crises that happened worldwide, how the global recession can had in the past and can have in the future an impact on demand. Of course, including the well-known shift of consumption from out of home to home consumption, with the initial trends and how this pattern has changed over the months, and then how the also in terms of what type of product and the changes in consumption because of the increased price sensitivity. And then, of course, how the new shift to e-commerce has been accelerated by the crisis. Other non-fundamental factors being studied are the currency devaluation, and then also the impact of high frequency trading, so non-commercial trading in the future market, and this is an impact. Now, all this, as I say, is available. Just to give you some highlight, we also, in order to produce our coffee break number 3, we carried out through our members an initial survey to understand how they were feeling the crisis and what were the issues that they want the ICO and the international community to help solving. And what you see here is just an highlight. I'm not going to put detail, as Joseph mentioned, that we know the negative impact was felt very much on employment, on revenues, and then less and less on consumption. Domestic consumption, yes, was affected, but then production was not affected, at least at the beginning of the survey. And the 16 responding members represent 85% of coffee production, so very significant sample. Now, we're jumping to the next part, and that is, I think, is what we are very, very proud. Last year, our first published flagship report, Coffee Development Report, was, I think, shared and downloaded by thousands of people, and there was all the coffee media and magazine praised the report, in addition to our members and academia. Now, this year, the team was selected. Every year, ICO has a team to focus our attention, and last year was on the value of coffee, so from beans to cup, and look into sustainability, including the resilience of the coffee value chain. So we adapted to take into account the pandemic as well. So while we were doing it, we reshift a bit the focus to include the resilience component more strongly. We all collaborated at the Kiel Institute for the World Economy. As you know, that's also one of the leading research centers on global value chain. But then we have received contribution by a number of other important actors, just mentioning a few, support by BMZ, by the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, because they valued the work done. Now, just let me check the timing, and we'll do another few minutes on this. This is a very unique publication. We carry out a very in-depth quantitative analysis of the whole global value chain using the approach of value chain and using, of course, the rich 30 years of detailed country-level statistic and data that we have. So that is feeding, of course, the debate about coffee and development. And the main objective were to understand the evolution of the value chain and see what the options different ISO member countries, so exporting, producing, and importing consumer countries have adopted over the years to increase value addition. And then also we propose a number of actions that could increase the transparency, and then to increase an integration of especially smallholder farmers into the global value chain, and how to mobilize what are the best practices that can help to scale down a lot of scattered good project and example, and develop also the local value chain. Now, the study, I say, is we're just doing the final editing. I mean, this would be after this seminar, we will continue. The section divided in two sections quickly: evolution, drivers, impact, and recommendations. So, as I mentioned, evolution, how the different countries participate, what are the main factors that drive upgrading in the global value chain. Again, this is all unique. There are a lot of scatter study from country level, but not on a global level on the coffee value chain. Then, of course, looking at the impact on the socioeconomic element and environment, but also the connection, as we mentioned, to achieve the SDGs, and finally, policy recommendation that members and stakeholders can take into account. And finally, we include a section 2 this year, a full state of the coffee market in 2020. Now, just to give you one example of how the analysis of data have shown, this is from 1991, basically, right after the end of the quota system, up to 2018, we see that many producing country and non-producing countries, so countries that produce the agricultural part, the agricultural produce, and the one that actually transform coffee, their export in value at the constant price has changed dramatically. So the difference between importing for local consumption and importing for transforming and export has changed, and you see the value quite clearly in the trend. We can discuss in detail. Now, to conclude this part of the presentation, I think we have another 5 minutes. We just want to look at how we help our members and the sector as a whole to continue developing the coffee sector. We all aiming at higher consumption, higher quality, higher profitability for all the coffee stakeholders, but on, of course, look into sustainability and addressing the specific needs of disadvantaged group or group that potentially is not fully utilized. So we've been looking into women specifically before, but now we try to focus on youth. And we launched, most of you probably are aware, that was established a few years ago, that the 1st of October every year was the beginning of the coffee year, according to the International Coffee Agreement. We define coffee year October to September. We launch the International Coffee Day. And this year, we, after long discussion because of COVID and what we wanted to do, take into account the Coffee Day, International Day, is to promote a positive image of coffee, so to attract more consumers as well, is we wanted to focus on the coffee next generation. So we want to launch a program and initiative where the next generation of young women and men can bring their knowledge, idea, talent, and passion to benefit of the whole coffee community, supporting specifically also as a tool to make the recovery from the coffee pandemic stronger and building a prosperous future for the sector. So this has been, after a long discussion, and this has been adopted by our members. Now, we have considered that investing in the young component of the population, especially in a time of COVID, and we know from old evidence show that young people that were already abandoning coffee, some of them they stay because they couldn't find other opportunity, but they are of course ready to leave. The average age of farmers is increasingly quite dramatically every year. But then we wanted to see that also the stream part, also the retail sector, how much a lot of young entrepreneurs with coffee shops, but also a lot of young workers found themselves out of job. So the focus on youth, I think, as across the value chain, increasing importance. That's what members have agreed. And we wanted to use this first day of celebration to build a program that would enable the ICO with all its partners. We are just a facilitator to provide resources in terms of knowledge, in terms of network, in terms of coaching, training, but also access to funds and possibility to grow and to promote entrepreneurship in the coffee sector. in the different dimension, with a lot of emphasis on new technology, but also new production, new retail system, and so on. I think we already been receiving a lot of interest from many, including a number of key industry players that want to join us in this process. This is, as I say, is at the very beginning of the process, but I think is also quite promising. How to the recovery and using and investing in youth. Just to make it a bit clearer, we want to support through this program the next generation of coffee entrepreneurs and operators by providing funds. And we've been discussing already with a number of foundations and some of the UN agency how to build, we will not manage a fund, but how to help this transfer and access to funding to support the development and growth of next generation coffee talents. There are a number of initiatives, there are a number of studies. We're putting all this together at the moment. But the second one, also extremely important, is knowledge. So investing and providing access to knowledge is clear through training and coaching, engaging a lot of pro bono, and many industry have their own training facility that could be made available. We planning to have some special envoy on youth in coffee as well. So selecting what are the key champion that can stimulate and attract others into the coffee sector, then promotion of learning and development, and then access into all the expert and infrastructure available. And this is, I think, the response received in the very initial stage of the process where we are now is quite promising. And the last part that is happening just these hours, these days, is that under the G20, one of the engagement group is called the U20. They meet every year. They just recently met for the G20 for this year, of course, affected by the COVID. But the next one, the G20 that will be next year in Italy, we have discussion to showcase coffee as one opportunity for the youth to build on their talent and knowledge and to make the coffee sector more prosperous. That is, I very confident we should try to get it, and it would be an opportunity to bring into high-level political agenda that coffee is not just a beautiful drink we love, but that gives business opportunity and employment opportunity, but also an opportunity for the youth, for the young women and men to find a solution to their problems and to fulfill their expectations. And with this, I will conclude. And of course, we are all available to provide additional information. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Gerardo. And on this last slide, if you can leave it up just for a moment, you can see our contact details. We are always at your disposal. We look forward to hearing from you. And now let's go, I think, Guillaume, into the question and answer session and see how we can best address your concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jose. Thank you very much, Gerardo. I think it was interesting to see the background of the ICO, which is something that we don't necessarily know in details. So that was important for us to get the background and also to know a bit more about what are your intentions. So the first question would be, do you see any a relationship between the SCTA Next Gen and the ICO Next Gen in terms of developments and support we could give you or platform we could provide you? I understand that the program would be mainly at origin, right? When you talk about knowledge, when you talk about developments of coffee farmers, of coffee exporters, there's clearly a challenge at origin, but you can get support from us from the consuming side.
Well, I think although the primary focus may be on origin, I think we have to look at the next gen in general. You are the future leaders of the coffee trade, especially in this case. And I think it's part of your, I don't know, coffee education to participate in this. But we are not looking just at origin. I think we want to also to look at things like how we can help baristas, up and coming baristas, to look into. You know more about your sector than we do and how we could work together. But I think there is scope for this, and please get in contact with us if you have any ideas. Of course, the question of funding is always important. Our resources are very limited, so we depend on on third parties to help us. We have had some, as Gerardo said, some very encouraging initial contacts in this direction, but we need to develop these further and transform them into concrete action.
That's great. That's great. Of course, our resources are also limited, but what we focus on, therefore, is the people we have in our team, and the experience they have are helping us a lot, accomplishing what we want to do as goals. So clearly, when we speak about knowledge at origin or at destination, etc., we also focus on the knowledge of exchange. So that's why on October 1st, we created a webinar inviting an exporter, a trader, and a roaster in order to discuss together and actually exchange information in order to increase knowledge from all the sides, right? Because knowledge of one side can improve greatly the other side and gain from each other. So that's basically bridging the gap, what we're going to be focusing on in 2021. And it would be great to have the ICO joining us on that side.
Oh, thank you, Guillaume. You were already kind enough to invite me and some of my colleagues to attend one of your other webinars, the one on certifications by Sue Garnett of Ecom. That was very interesting experience. So I think we should try and develop this exchange of ideas of intellectual capital even more.
Yeah, that's great. A question that just came on was, are you partnering with any specific organization at origin regarding agriculture, smart agriculture development and farming practices?
This is very much a work in progress, what we are doing. First, I think we need to build on what is already out there instead of using resources on new institutions that duplicate what is already going on. So we are very much working through our partners, and here I'd like to give a special mention to the Sustainable Coffee Challenge and the Global Coffee Platform. They are multi-stakeholder initiatives, and they have a very wide range of membership. One of the challenges the task force faces in its next phase is to incorporate better the associations, organizations from producing countries. At the moment, it's the private sector is mainly represented by the trade and the roasting industry in the developed countries, and we need to find a way to bring in the associations in producing countries. This has a lot of challenges in terms of language. If we were holding physical meetings, it would also be a challenge in terms of funding for participation. So this is something that we had to leave to a second stage, but is very much on our minds as we move forward.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I can imagine indeed that there are challenges at origin when you want to gather all the different countries. Just a last point regarding the statistics you provide. We understand that you may be requiring help to gather statistics, so don't hesitate to reach out. We can try to put together something, a program in order to get information for you. So I don't know if you want to talk about the statistics development you want to promote in 2021.
Yes, thank you. Here we're talking specifically about the indicator prices. And for those of you who don't know, the indicator prices are a very rich source of information. They go back to the late 1960s, and they are daily prices on an ex-doc basis. So this is not futures prices. It is preferably the prices that reflect actual deals, if not deals, but at least offers and bids. Now, these prices have traditionally been collected by what we call collection agencies, agents who help us in our work in three different points, two in Europe and one in the United States. The work of these agents has become more and more difficult over time. The trade has, and the roasting industry has, they both have concentrated a lot, so there are fewer people to work with in terms of prices. It's more difficult to get in touch with people. So we intend during the coming 6 months to move to a new system where, on a very user-friendly basis, we would set up a way in which the trade could actually directly type in its prices, and that would facilitate the work of everybody. We are putting the final touches to this proposal, and then we will certainly contact the SCTA, and I know the next gen is very influential with the board, so maybe you can give us the support at the institutional level, but also at the company level to this initiative. We need your help. The more people that, the more firms that participate, the more reliable the result will be. So we really count on your support, and we will come back to you on this issue in the very near future.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you, Jose. Thank you, Gerardo. To all the NextGen participants, thank you very much for joining today for this last webinar of the year. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any suggestions for next year. If you want to approach any specific subject, you can reach out via the email or via the LinkedIn account. It will be a pleasure to work on it together. I don't know if Gerardo or Jose, you want to finish with one last sentence, or are we good to go?
Well, just to thank you again, and it's always a pleasure for an old dinosaur like myself to meet young people. When I go, for example, to the World of Coffee events, things like that, I always feel myself refreshed and rejuvenated from this contact. I'm sorry that we could not meet in person today, but I really appreciate what you are doing as SCTA Next Gen, and whatever we can do to help to find areas of mutual benefit, please count on us as partners.
Great. Thank you very much. And we're all looking forward to seeing you in Athens then for next year, the World of Coffee. Hopefully everything's going to be fine. Gerardo?
Okay, yeah. No, thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to remind on the next Coffee Next Generation that information are now available through the website www.internationalcoffeeday.org. But of course, you know, we're planning to establish some community of practice, so share entrepreneurial experience and technical experience on technologies for the youth to be shared with youth. And then, of course, we invite all the members to join that. And with additional information, they can contact us. We can maybe provide more information through you, through your members, because what we need is to increase this community of practice to address and exploit opportunity for youth in coffee. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. On this, everyone, stay safe. All the best. And we look forward to seeing you. Jose, Gerardo, have a great day. Thank you for participating. And we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.